When we think about post Second World War Europe, most of us imagine democracy triumphing over fascism. But here is the twist: Europe was split not only between East and West, but also between two different kinds of dictatorships. In the East, communist regimes rose under the influence of the Soviet Union. And in the West, there were two right wing dictatorships which stubbornly survived even after the Second World War. I am talking about Spain under Francisco Franco and Portugal under Antonio Salazar. So while West Germany, France, Italy, and the United Kingdom turned toward democracy, parts of Europe remained under the grip of authoritarian rulers well into the 1970s, well after the end of the Second World War. Let's break down how these two very different kinds of dictatorships shaped post Second World War Europe. After the Red Army swept across Central and Eastern Europe in 1945, countries like Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, and East Germany all fell under communist single party rule. These were Soviet backed regimes characterized by central planning, secret police, and suppression of dissent. From Stalin to Brezhnev, the Eastern Bloc fell under the proverbial Iron Curtain, isolated from Western democracy and capitalism. While Eastern Europe turned towards communism, the Iberian Peninsula remained under right wing authoritarianism. Franco in Spain had seized power after the Spanish Civil War with help from both Hitler and Mussolini. He remained officially neutral during the Second World War, and perhaps it was this neutral stance which helped him survive the defeat of fascism by avoiding direct involvement. Spain was diplomatically isolated at first, but Cold War politics changed everything. The United States and NATO saw Franco as a bulwark against communism, leading to military and economic deals in the 1950s. By the 1960s, Spain experienced the Spanish miracle: rapid industrial growth and booming tourism. Franco ruled until his death in 1975, after which King Juan Carlos surprised the world by leading a transition to democracy. Now let's look at Portugal, the Iberian Peninsula neighbor of Spain. Salazar built the Estado Novo, a corporatist Catholic authoritarian state. Portugal too stayed neutral in the Second World War but leveraged its Atlantic islands to remain useful to the Allies. Portugal became a NATO founder in 1949 despite being a dictatorship because of its staunch anti communism stance. Unlike Spain, Portugal poured money and manpower into colonial wars in Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea Bissau, which drained the Portuguese economy. After Salazar's stroke in 1968, Marcelo Caetano took over, but repression continued. The dictatorship finally collapsed in 1974 with the Carnation Revolution, a peaceful military coup that brought democracy. So, in the East, you had communist regimes loyal to Moscow. In the West, you had right wing authoritarian regimes clinging to Catholic conservatism and nationalism. Both sides crushed dissent, both sides used secret police, and both lasted decades after the end of the Second World War. Europe's post Second World War story wasn't just democracy versus dictatorship, it was also dictatorship versus dictatorship, left dictatorship versus right dictatorship. And the irony is, while Eastern European communist states collapsed in 1989, Spain and Portugal had already turned democratic over a decade earlier. So, the next time you hear that the Second World War ended authoritarianism in Europe, remember Franco and Salazar, the last dictators of Western Europe.